Hey there, this is Joe Robinson, and I'm coming to you from the road. I'm up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan at the moment, playing a music festival up here, and I'm staying in like an Airbnb type place where I have the house to myself and I can make a little noise, which is nice. Yeah, I've been refining my pedal board this year. It's July of 2025 as of making this video, and yeah, I went through this kind of big pedal board experiment earlier in the year, testing out many different options of pedals that are available currently. When I was in my early 20s, 10 years ago, I was pretty into finding the newest, coolest pedals and using them, but in recent years, I've been less interested in that. But I've gotten back into kind of appreciating having a bigger board and some more options, and a rig that is really practical but also sounds top shelf. I'm really happy with the way it sounds. So this is the rig. From right to left, I'll just explain what's going on, and then we'll talk about the kind of specifics. I have a stomp box there. This is, like a foot percussion box. That sounds really great. It's made by an Australian company called Wild Dog, and it's just a really nice low kick drum type sound that is a nice blend with electric guitar but also acoustic guitar. So that's what that is. And then on this side I have my acoustic rig right there. On this side is my electric rig, so it's a combined acoustic and electric board. I'm a combined acoustic and electric player, and it's nice to have everything on the one board. I have this little amp that I carry with me. It goes in a Pelican case and fits perfectly, and I've been using this rig, the little Flying with a Champ, for 5 years now, something like that, and I haven't had any issues with it flying with a tube amp, on planes, which is pretty interesting. I would have thought I would have had, a tube go out or something, but nothing's really gone wrong. So I have this AER Alpha that I'm using at the moment. I do prefer the Capo 75 amp, which is the newer model that Udo has made. However, this AER Alpha fits in my road case perfectly, and the Capo does not fit in the road case. So that's why I have the Alpha. It's actually not it's not going to the PA at all. It's just a monitor, and it gives me a consistent stage sound. I'll demonstrate the acoustic side in a minute, but I have my Strat on right now, so I'll talk about the electric side first, and explain why I made the choices I did. So this is the electric side. I start with this tuner, which is the Sonic Research tuner. I have one for the acoustic as well, and this is maybe my favorite pedal on the board, the tuner. You might be thinking, man, there's so many exciting things on here, Joe. Why are you excited about a tuner? Well, this tuner is so accurate, it's insane. If I'm going to play like an E, you can see, if I was to play that on a Boss tuner, it would say that's perfectly in tune. But you can see it's a little bit flat, and watch this. So I'll get it so it's in tune, so it stops moving, and then I take my finger off the tuner and it goes flat. So it's so accurate that I can feel if my hand's on the guitar. Like, it's unbelievably accurate. It's more accurate than the Peterson tuner, which I've used for a long time. I do like the Strobo Stomp from Peterson. However, the deal breaker for me is it has this relay bypass, the Peterson does, where you press it and it makes a click, and it takes like half a second before it lets the signal through. And I'm like a kind of a I like things to be really reactive and quick, and it just drives me nuts having like a little kind of a moment where I have to wait for that relay to click. Anyway, it's short, but it's enough to bother me. So this Sonic Research tuner, it allows me to play in 432 tuning calibration instead of 440, which is something I'm experimenting with at the moment. I do think it sounds really nice and really just different and pleasant. I'm not sure I buy into the whole healing properties of 432 resonance, but I like the fact that this tuner can do that, because you can't do it with a Boss tuner. You can't go to 432. So there you go. The Sonic Research Turbo Tuner, I think you can only buy it on their website. It's just a really, really accurate tuner. I'm really excited to use this in the studio, especially because I can just be really OCD about tuning. I should have mentioned before I go into the tuner, I actually hit a buffer, which is on the bottom of the board there. You can't really see the top of it, but it's the TrueTone Buffer, and it just kind of makes it such that the guitar sound is a little fatter and punchier when it's after running through these pedals. I got a buffer on the front end, and then I have this set to buffer mode, so there's buffer on either end of the signal. Anyway, I'll keep going so this video doesn't take an hour to make. Go into the buffer first, and then into the Sonic Research tuner, then into this mini Crybaby, which sounds excellent. I'll see if I can make some noise with it to show you what it sounds like. So it's a pretty simple wah-wah. I find it quite comfortable, even though it's that small. I definitely prefer it to the big one in terms of, like, the big ones are so heavy, and these ones to me sound just as good. I haven't compared them exhaustively, but it's just pretty basic effect, and it's true bypass. So what's not to love? They're pretty inexpensive as well. This is just like the Crybaby Mini Wah. I think it's just like there's one standard model, I think. Anyway, this is my overdrive pedal of choice currently, and you can see my settings there. These settings are for the Champ, and the Champ, which I'll speak about after I go through the pedals, is, man, it's such a great sounding amp. I really find this is hard to beat for, like, if you get it dialed in right. If you don't get it dialed in right, it's kind of a disaster. It has there's a real limitation as to what it can do. It's only 5 watts, and you can easily start to overload the low end, but if you get it just right, man, it's such a sweet sound. So the Zendrive is just pushing that a little bit. I'll demonstrate in just a moment, like Zendrive on, Zendrive off, and show you what it does, but basically it's just giving it a little bit of a darker color. With stock Fender amps, I find that they sound a little bit too hi-fi and bright if you just plug into them without any pedal. So I'm almost always using some kind of an overdrive, even with the gain on almost 0, to just give it a color. And I have a 1967 Showman that I use sometimes if I need a lot of volume. It's like the opposite of the Champ. The Showman is 85 watts. And it was modified by Kai Kennedy for the first channel to be a little bit more like a Marshall. And if I'm using that amp, I don't feel I need an overdrive, but having an overdrive in front of like a Deluxe or a Princeton or a Champ, gives me the sound I like. So I'll show you what it sounds like when it's on and when it's off. Okay. So let me get the camera set up here. Okay. So let's start off. And you'll hear when it's off, it's actually more noisy. So that's an issue with this board that I gotta figure out. But anyway, without the pedal, it sounds like this. pedal. You hear it's kind of subtle, and the noise is like it's a weird thing with this rig. I'm gonna have a professional kind of refine this and hardwire everything eventually, but this is kind of like, I'm just trying to iron out the kinks for the moment. But you can hear it just kind of, you know, cuts it just not makes the guitar a little less hi-fi and a little more focused in the mids. Anyway, hopefully that comes to the camera mic. I'm just filming on a camera here. So from the Zendrive, I go into this delay, which is the Strymon Timeline, which is a wonderful delay pedal. It actually came out a long time ago, I think 2011 or 2013, somewhere around there it came out. So we're in 2025 now. It's an old design. I hope they update it soon. I see there's kind of rumors that they are going to update it. Strymon are. If they update it, I hope they make the looper longer, because the looper, which I do use, if you hold this down, you get to the loop. And the looper is only like 30 seconds or 40 seconds or something like that. It's not very long, which, you know, I do have one song that I have to change the length of the loop because I need it to be a little bit shorter, but that's not the end of the world. But the delay pedal, I really like the sound of analog delays, like a Memory Man type thing. So I mostly use it on the D-bucket setting. D-bucket is the type of chip using those analog delays. So if I show you what the delay sounds like, it sounds like this. And if I tap, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can get faster. Turn the reverb off. Or I can go slower. So it's got a nice analog quality to it, although it's a digital delay. And the reason I like having a digital delay, and I have two of these timelines as you see, is I can store presets for different songs. So if I want to get creative and have like a specific delay for a specific song, I can do that. I used to use the Eventide time factor many years ago, and I had patches for all my songs, and I do miss having that. So I haven't really programmed, you know, a bunch of songs into these yet, but that's what I'm planning. Right now I have Mindless, which is one of my songs, and I have this setting called Joe, which is just a basic acoustic kind of patch that I can tap tempo in something in if I want. But anyway, the timeline on the electric side is used for looping as well as a nice little delay. So yeah, and from the timeline, this DI is for the Stomp Box, so that's not with the electric side actually. And I think I'm gonna actually need to switch this out to a DI with a pad on it for this Stomp, because the Stomp can be very hot, and in certain cases, I don't want the Stomp to be like really, really loud. It's kind of like if you send the front of house guy a really loud signal, it ends up being really loud, even though, you know, he has the fader and controls it. But yeah, I think a pad is going to be probably a good thing to have with the Stomp. So anyway, I might switch this out. But this is a great sounding DI made by Kevin Shaw in Nashville, and it runs on a 9-volt power supply. So I have this Zoma pedal, which is a reverb and tremolo made by Keeley. And I tested it out against, I tested so many reverb pedals. I tested the Universal Audio EMT 140 reverb. I tested the Strymon Flint. I tested the Ventris here, which I chose to use on acoustic. It's a great pedal. I tested the Strymon Big Sky, the Strymon Blue Sky, and the Zoma was my choice for electric guitar. I think it's a spectacular sounding reverb. It has basically on the reverb side, it has a spring setting and a plate setting. I use it on the plate setting right now. So without the reverb. With the reverb. The tremolo side sounds like this. Forgive the noise of my guitar. I'm in like not an ideal environment power-wise. I'm plugged into 2 different outlets, but anyway. Yeah, the Zoma sounds really, really great. I use it on the kind of middle setting here. So the reverb is the plate setting, and then the tremolo is like the harmonic tremolo, I think. Yeah, I'm going to put some little markings there for this setting because I want to make sure I can just kind of plug my board in and make sure everything's set properly and not have to like go through too much at sound check before a concert. Try to make things as streamlined as possible. But yeah, I really think this is a great sounding pedal. I think with reverb, digital reverb pedals, the processing improvements have really made it easier for these companies to make incredible sounding digital pedals. This is like a freeze pedal that also has a kind of glitch functionality, and these Chase Bliss pedals, man, I really like the way they're designed. I'm not like a guy to go through manuals. You can see all the dip switches it has. Like, there's so many things you can do with this pedal. It has full MIDI, everything. There's a lot you can do, but I'm just using it on a preset. So I have this little preset switch selected, and basically it allows me to play a chord and freeze it. Like, just kind of get the camera set. So I can do this kind of thing. The glitch side, I haven't really messed with that yet. I have it on trails mode, which is why it's kind of fading out like that. But yeah, the pad like freeze side is mainly what I find appealing about this pedal. It's just nice to be able to play a chord and have a nice keyboard type pad there. I think that'll add a nice little moment in my concert where I can play a chord and then play over the top of it and just kind of, set the mood. So that's the electric side. It's like this board looks like a spaceship, but it's actually, there's not really that much going on. It's a tuner, a wah, an overdrive, a delay, reverb, tremolo, and then this freeze pedal. Like those are all pretty standard guitar effects. And then I go into this Champ, it's a 1967 Champ. I got it, like 5 years ago or so, and I got it with the intention of being able to put it in a Pelican case and fly with it. And man, it's been great. It's so nice having my own amp at every gig, because if I'm using backline, it's just always like so hit and miss. This amp has a great voice, a great sound. I put a Celestian in the back. You can see it right there at the suggestion of Alexander Dumble. I became friends with Mr. Dumble before he passed away, which was something I'm really grateful I had the chance to, go to his house and play through his amps, and became friends. And he used to play my songs. He asked me to send him one of my songbooks because he heard I had a songbook, and I sent it to him. And he said he has fun playing my fingerstyle tunes. So he was a great guitar player. When I heard him play for the first time, I realized that he, the reason his amps sound so great is because of his ear. But anyway, that's how I set the Champ. I have to be careful because it can easily kind of sound like this no low end, and it has a sweetness to the sound. I'll just show you what happens if you kind of push it too hard, right? Just for fun. There we go. Anyway, great sounding amp. Okay, so let's talk about the acoustic side of things now. This is the guitar that I've used for a long time. I got this in 2011. It's my Maton JR Personal, they call it. The JR signature guitar, which is the Maton that you can buy these days, is based on this particular guitar. It has Tasmanian myrtle back and sides, and as you can see by the neck wear, I've played this guitar a lot, and it's become a real comfort zone instrument for me. Yeah, the flamed Tasmanian myrtle is really beautiful and has a kind of a punchy, nice, kind of throaty, mid-range sound. I just really like the instrument, and the newer Maton JR signatures are awesome guitars. The main reason I play this one is just because it's older and it's just kind of feels like home to me. So yeah, it has the Maton pickup. Whoops, that cable's got a little bit of a sound to it. I use the Maton pickup. I kind of set the bass and treble either all the way up or like at 85%, just so I have a little headroom. I'll show you, I have a little EQ here in my pocket tools, which is key, and I'll show you that in a minute. I set the mid-range between 1/4 and 1/2, and just use the Sharpie on my finger right there. It's just Sharpie, it's nothing, it's not a bruise or anything. I set the mic typically on 100% and the piezo on 100%. Yeah, and the volume will usually be on 100% too. But yeah, usually the tone is down a little bit, but sometimes I'll push it to 100 if I'm just feeling a little randy. Okay, so let's look at the pedals. This ironing board, by the way, is not part of my rig. It's just what I was using to put the phone camera stand on. So this is the acoustic side of the rig. I go into this Sonic Research tuner, which, as I mentioned, is a really accurate strobe tuner. It's extremely accurate, actually, and yeah, I'm still kind of getting a feel for it. This is like a tuner you will either love or it'll drive you nuts. I showed my mum. She was visiting when I first got this tuner, and I showed her, and I was trying to decide, whether I liked it enough to put it on my board. And she was like, "Man, that would drive me crazy because it doesn't just go green. It doesn't go green. It just kind of is always moving, even if it's in tune." But that's what I like about it, because the guitar is never perfectly in tune. It's always just a little bit, it's almost, so you see, it's not perfectly still. It's so accurate. So anyway, I really am liking that tuner at the moment, but I'm still getting a feel for how to properly use it, if I'm honest. And then I come into this Chase Bliss Blooper. Try to say that 3 times fast. It's a loop pedal that is pretty expensive. They cost $400 or $500, like very expensive for a loop pedal. But it's one of the only loop pedals that is that small and has just a really simple button: start, stop, clear. I don't need to hold anything down to clear. Some people think it's absolutely ridiculous that I'm using like this looper for just a standard looper, because it can do all kinds of like wacky, crazy things. But it really is the best option that I could find. I used the RC1 Boss for a long time, but I need to use an external foot switch with that. And I do prefer the Boss, like the pedal, as opposed to these little, buttons, which if you play with bare feet, like I do sometimes in the studio, these buttons they feel horrible on your bare feet. Whereas the Boss, kind of big fat Boss pedals feel great. So one feature I probably will use a little bit on this is this filter modifier. So if I was to create a loop, it might go something like this. There's the loop. I might play electric guitar over that, but if you press this, I get that sound. So anyway, it has that nice kind of filter that you can turn on and off. Off. Anyway, and then you clear it really easily, and my guitar is not quite in tune. So let me demonstrate how I would tune with this tuner. Turn the volume on my guitar up. A little bit sharp there. A little bit flat there. A little bit flat. Should be tuned now. Pretty good. Okay, so from the loop pedal, I go into the AER Colourizer. Now, I'm using this for a specific reason. Firstly, the combination of a Maton guitar pickup and an AER or Capo preamp is such a great sound. Remember, I played on Australia's Got Talent when I was, at 16, and I think I plugged my guitar straight into a DI, and then I used my AER as like just a monitor or something. And I remember Tommy Emmanuel said, "Hey Joe, I heard you play on the TV show," and it sounded like you weren't using the AER as a preamp. And just wanted to say that, if you use the AER as a preamp, it'll sound better. And yeah, I took that to heart. All those years ago, 15 years ago, whenever that, more than that now, yeah, 17 years ago? Gosh. Anyway, so as you can see, I have little red marks on where I like to set this pedal. And one of the main things I'm doing is I have a notch here at around 200 hertz. Roughly, I think that's about 200 hertz. See, it's like I have the frequency 1 button pressed in, and it's 90 hertz to 1.6K. So 200 is, I think it's roughly in there. Anyway, with my guitar, 200 hertz is usually where I get a little bit of a resonance and a rumble. And what I don't like is if the front of house engineer hears a bit of resonance and they just start cutting all the low end, and I lose all the kind of power down bottom. But a better solution is just to back off that 200 hertz area. So in certain venues, I'll do that. So that's one of the things I use this pedal for, as well as just the overall coloration, as well as if I want more volume. So if I'm just feeling like, it's gonna be terrible image, but I feel like if the front of house engineer is castrating me by having like this kind of ballless sound, sorry, I like to be able to turn it up and just kind of give it a bit of oomph. Because on my guitar it's usually set to 100%, and this gives me a little more headroom to use if I want. From there, I go into this Strymon Timeline, which, as I mentioned before, is a nice delay pedal. It sounds great, and I can create all kinds of different patches, specific patches for songs. Under this pedal is a DI that I'll talk about in just a moment. but just to show you the delay on an acoustic, this is the setting I currently have. No reverb. Anyway, it's pretty subtle, but it's a nice thing to be able to use, especially if I program specific patches for specific songs. So that's kind of what's going on there. Now this pedal is a reverb pedal made by Source Audio. You can see the brand there. It's called the Ventris, and I'm using on the whole setting. And these two knobs are Control 1 and Control 2, but I really would only use this pedal on the whole and the plate setting. And it has presets. There's 4 presets, and you can scroll through them by turning off the pedal. And basically, I like to have, well, my plan is to have kind of one main reverb, and then to have a much bigger reverb if I want to play a ballad with like a lot of, ambience. So let's check out the reverb. That's the basic sound. This is off. If I hold this down, so it has a kind of a freeze effect if you hold that right pedal down. So that's nice as well. But the quality of this reverb is extraordinary. It's not as intuitive to use as some of the other options I tried, but like I said with the Zoma, I tried the Universal Audio reverb. I think it's called the Golden, especially the EMT 140 plate setting on that, which I use that plug-in a lot in the studio, but this pedal, for me, the quality was superior. I tried the Strymon Bead Sky, and I found that the Strymon kind of was a little more intuitive to use, but this beat it out sonically for me. So yeah, it's really great sounding pedal. From there, I go into a Rupert Neve DI, which is a stereo DI. And so it allows me to send a stereo signal to the front of house, left and right acoustic, as you see it labeled there. And it gives the front of house my sound. And I go into this AER amp just for a monitor. So it's not, there's nothing plugged into the output of that amp. It's really nice having an amp on stage with you if you're playing acoustic guitar. It just gives you a consistent tone, consistent sound every night rather than relying on monitors. So that's the rig. I may change a few things as I play more shows with it. And there's a company in Nashville called Exact Tone Solutions, X, like the letter X, ACT, A-C-T, who make a lot of pedal boards for the Nashville guitar players, a community of which I used to be a member. And probably once I iron out any kinks in this rig, I'll send it to them to have them hardwire it so that they solder every cable the exact length and make it look so neat and make it a little more roadworthy. I've done I think probably an okay job at making it neat and tidy, but there is room for improvement, and they can build custom input and output boxes so that I don't have these weird adapted cables there, although the weird adapters are just used for like the output to the amp and the stomp box, nothing too critical. Talk about this Strat for a moment. It's a Fender Custom Shop Strat that Fender built for me. I played an event at their like 100 best dealer event thing and at the factory in like 2013, I think. I think that's when this guitar was built. Anyway, they asked me what I wanted, and I told them 63-ish Strat, and with a nice big neck. And the neck's pretty fat, which is like the main thing I like in an electric guitar is I don't like skinny necks. And I move the volume knob here because it just gets in the way when I play. So it has a master volume here, and then this is the bridge tone. So there's no tone for the neck or the middle, but the bridge, sometimes I like to dial it back just a hair. So that works for what I do. I much prefer not having that knob there, and I'm quite happy not to have a tone control in the neck and the middle. So yeah, it's a great guitar. Burgundy Mist is the color. Some other bits and bobs I like to use on the road are these Shubb Capos. It's just a really simple design, and one of the things I like about them is you can put it on and you can bend a string and the string doesn't get out of place. Whereas with certain capos, like Kaisers, tend to pull the string sharp a little too much for me. Although I like that they have one hand action, and sometimes I have one Kaiser that is old and it's not as, doesn't pull down on the strings as much. Like the spring is kind of a little bit looser, and it's fine. But I find that these are really the option I prefer. So I keep two of these in my back left pocket. I use one on acoustic and one on electric, and yeah, I'll put the capo on and then I'll dampen the strings, and it pretty much holds tuning. As for picks, I use this Dunlop medium. As you can see, this one's pretty worn out, but I just have a pile of them that I keep in my guitar case in my pocket and on stage. And I have this Dunlop Jazz 3, which I use for electric guitar playing. I have a blue chip as well that I like for acoustic lead work, but if I'm playing a solo concert, I don't really do any of that. I use thumb pick with acoustic, and then either bare fingers or the Jazz 3 with electric. I'm gonna pack up my cables, and I thought I'd just chat while I'm doing so. So I'm not doing too much touring these days. As you may have heard, I moved out to Montana, 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago now, from Nashville. I lived in Nashville for 12 years, and I have a son who's almost 2, and it's really nice to be mostly at home working in the studio, doing some teaching on the online course front with my Invisible Technique platform, but recording music, and I built a studio where I can finish my album projects that are in the works. So yeah, I'm kind of mostly working on that side of things. These cables, by the way, are made by Laboga, Laboga, and this particular cable I've had for between 15 and 20, well, probably 15 years, which is unbelievable for a cable. All the cables I've had from the first bunch of cables I got from them still work, and I've used them a ton. They've traveled the world with me, and if you've ever bought a guitar cable from the big box store, and you've had it stop working after 6 months, then man, experience a Laboga cable. I think they make great cables, and these black ones are a more modern kind of well, they're newer. They're not 15 years old, they're probably 10 years old. And I use this one for acoustic and this one for electric, and one of the reasons is that they just look different, so I don't plug in the wrong one to the wrong pedal. That's kind of what's going on there. And I have this, this cable is like a Damasio, just a short cable for my stomp box. I don't have a particularly strong feeling about it, but one consideration with this board is I try to make sure everything's like lightweight. I have a little scale at home, and I'm always measuring, weighing my different items. And before I like put this pedal board together, I went to ChatGPT and said, tell me the weight of a Strymon timeline. Oh, it's 380 grams. Tell me the weight of a blah, blah, blah. And I calculated the weight of this board and made sure that it would not be too heavy for my road case, you know, to fly around. Because in the airport, if you're over 50 pounds, if your bag is over 50 pounds, you got to pay a fortune in excess baggage. And not to mention, it's like, you got to lug something incredibly heavy around. So I keep it, you know, right at or under 50 pounds for my amp case as well as my pedalboard case. The pedalboard case weighs about 40 pounds when it's just got my gear in it, and then I have 10 pounds worth of clothes I can bring. So this is the Pelican i615. I have two of them. One has my amps, one has the pedalboard, and as you can see, it's a perfect fit. It's I'll Velcro this to the side so it doesn't come up, but it's secure, and this amp fits exactly perfectly, which is really great. There's a little foam on the bottom as well as on the sides and on the top, so there's a little bit of protection. And the AER fits in there perfectly as well. I wish that the Capo fit in this case, but it's too big. And I have my little stomp box goes there, and I usually put in the old SM58. Carry my own mic for hygiene. And this case weighs exactly 50 pounds with that stuff in it. Exactly. If the baggage scale reads 51 pounds, then I tell them it's not calibrated properly, which is true. This case with these pedals and a few cables weighs about 40 pounds. And basically what I do is I'll throw a couple little bags of clothes in there. And my toiletries bag with my toothbrush and whatnot. And that weighs pretty much 50 pounds at that point. So it's a pretty good little touring rig, I must say. I'm quite happy with it. Guitars go in this bag, which is a mono double guitar case. So my electric goes in the back and my acoustic goes in the main pocket. And I often gate check this guitar. I'm fine to gate check it. The main reason I want to take it on the plane is because, not check it in a like an Enki hard case or something like that is, living in Montana, I usually have to have a connection in Denver or Minneapolis or somewhere like that, Salt Lake City. And when you have a connection, sometimes they can lose your bags. And if I lost these two, I could still do a show with my guitar only. But if I lost my guitar, I would have to find another one, which is not as easy to do. So, yeah, that's what I do. And this offers, reasonable protection. I've not had a guitar damage from gate checking it. Oftentimes I will bring it on the plane and fit it in the overheads. There's a culture of customer service here. So if you ask nicely, oftentimes if the flight's not full, they'll allow you to put it in the closet or put it in the overhead. In Australia, there's not the same culture of customer service, I would say. And one of the things I don't particularly like about Australian culture, the same as English culture, and I think it's the same in Ireland and those other countries, Canada probably too. It's kind of a culture of box checking where it's like, if that's the rule, nope, no way they can make an accommodation. It's like no instruments on board, tick that box. There's just there's no reasoning with people, and it makes me sad because it's just they can be kind of just really cold about it. I never want to be the guy that insist on bringing my guitar on board if it's a full flight and everyone has to like, you know, put their bag under the seat. I'm really pretty sensitive to that. So I'm always happy to gate check my instrument if there's not room. When they gate check it, they put it with the strollers and things, and it's not as likely to have like suitcases on top of it if you check it in the you know, at the regular baggage check-in. So that's what I do. But yeah, that's the pedal board. I have another pedal board that I built for my studio sounds that I'll maybe make another video about down the road. So let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're new here. And thanks very much for watching. Take care and all the best.